Do you know that Jeb Bush's full name is John Ellis Bush, or Jeb for short? This has a couple of implications. First of all, it means that he voluntarily goes by the name Jeb, which is just tragic. And second, it means that if you expand out John Ellis Jeb Bush's name, you get John Ellis Bush Bush, which is a name just as tedious as the man himself. Also, when I said John Ellis Bush Bush just now, the first Bush was okay, but the second Bush was a total mistake, simply terrible. Can you imagine how bad things would be if there was a third Bush? Luckily, that's not going to happen. This is why Jeb Bush will never be president. Howdy gang, Jeb Bush was anointed his frontrunner position at the beginning of the 2016 race by default, and ever since people have gotten to know him, that position has weakened and weakened. Current frontrunner Donald Trump has been apt to eloquently point this out.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is principled. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so
far
I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
Donald Trump is right. Please don't take that quote out of context. I don't even like it in context. But it's true. Jeb Bush started off in first place with the full support of the Republican establishment, and since then has fallen to about 5th or 6th place with no sign of a resurgence coming anytime soon. So what happened? Well, Jeb Bush has always been sort of a mythical legend in the political consciousness over the past couple of decades. In the deepest, darkest days of W, there was much speculation that perhaps it should have been Jeb to take up the mantle of the Bush dynasty and run for president instead of his brother. There was always sort of this ephemeral, better-than-George vibe about him, even though people didn't really know too many details about the man himself. So at the end of George's disastrous second term, there was hope among fans of the Bushes that perhaps Jeb could rescue the reputation of America's second most disgraced family. But then, tragically, for the Jeb Bush campaign, people got to learn more about him. The Republican Party loved George W. Bush for his swagger, evangelism, and his refusal to give in to the special interests of vocabulary and grammar.
Teach a child to read, and he or her will be able to pass a literacy test.
He was the kind of guy you'd want to have a beer with, clearly making him qualified to be president of the United States. And also, as governor of Texas, he had conservative credentials, so it makes sense why Republican voters would be inclined to vote for his brother Jeb. However, like any third installment of a trilogy, Jeb Bush has been a significant disappointment. He's sort of like the Shrek the Third of the Bush family.
A new era finally begins.
The most upsetting thing about Jeb is where his brother was a cool, fun-loving cowboy of a man, Jeb Bush is simply a nerd. For example, unlike his brother, he has this weird habit of speaking in full grammatically correct sentences. Whether it's discussing his logo,
it connotes excitement,
or how he feels about Democrats who want to cut taxes.
You find a Democrat that's for cutting taxes, cutting spending $10, I'll give him a warm kiss.
Or the sexual habits of immigrants.
Immigrants are more fertile.
There's something so off-putting about how precise Jeb Bush's language is in comparison to the rhetoric of his opponents. By the way, that's off-putting, not off-putting, which is the diet that Jeb Bush took up in preparation for a run for president. Donald Trump gets votes because he's like, I love America, it's great, and believe me, let me tell you, if you vote for me, it's gonna be even greater. Jeb Bush expresses the same thought like, the United States of America? I enjoy it here. It is pleasant. I read that it has plentiful resources. It fits all the criteria of my personal preferences. God bless America. Unless you do not believe in God, or if you believe in a different God than I do, or if you believe in the same God that I do but do not think you would prefer one country over another. By the time Jeb Bush is done with his extremely precise, very grammatically correct sentence, Donald Trump has already won the f***ing election. But perhaps the only thing worse than Jeb Bush being too uptight is Jeb Bush trying to loosen up. Like when asked what his favorite Marvel superhero is.
I saw that there's a Supergirl is on TV. I saw it when I was working out this morning. There's an ad promoting Supergirl. She looked pretty hot.
Jeb, when asked your favorite Marvel superhero, the correct answer is Iron Man, or Spider-Man, or even Jesus, Captain America, or even Ant-Man. Okay, not Ant-Man. But anything is better than that hot chick from that commercial. Am I right, fellas? In any case, Jeb Bush's romantic tendencies don't end there. Take a look at how he revealed this t-shirt supporting Ronald Reagan.
Let me show you something.
Okay, the music and the slow motion was added later, but you get the point. But worst of all was when Jeb Bush decided to bro out with a random supporter.
How about a chest bump?
Where the hell did that come from? There's no indication that this person implied a desire to chest bump, and yet Jeb Bush offers it out of the blue. Also, who initiates a chest bump by being like, "How about a chest bump? My good sir, I would like to exchange a communication of male brotherhood with you. Do you accept or reject?" For all the flaws of Jeb Bush's campaign I've talked about so far, I haven't even addressed the fact that he was once governor of Florida, which is well known to be a highly erratic crazy land. Indeed, for more on this subject, we will have to go to our chief Floridian correspondent, pre-recorded from Miami, Juan Escalante.
Thank you, Chandler. Yes, Jeb Bush was in charge of Florida for 8 years, and if you lived here like I did for that time, you would know he was a fantastic governor. Just as long as you were a corporation or a big insurance company or a bad guy from Captain Planet. But that's not the problem I have with Jeb Bush. Neither is him thinking that having a Latino wife makes him Latino. You can't just be Latino from being inside of one, Jeb. That's not how it works. It's not an STD, pendejo, mama fue. Sorry, went too far there. No, my real problem with Jeb Bush is that on a fundamental level, he's so lame, folks. He's just, not even like John Kasich lame or Mike Huckabee lame, but like painfully lame. Like, you know, he still wants to be cool deep inside. He's like the human version of quinoa spread on a kale chip. It's not gonna happen, Jeb. Just give up. I mean, the man literally needs an exclamation point after his name just to seem interesting. Jeb! Jeb! And what's worse is that Jeb Bush isn't even the most interesting member of his own family. I mean, what's it like to eat dinner with your mom, dad, and brother and be the only one there who's never lived at the White House? Like, do the Georges make fun of him and call him names like Never President Jeb or Jeb, who's never been president? Jeb Bush wasn't even that bad of a governor. I mean, he's not even the worst governor we've ever had. Not when we currently have Rick Scott, who I'm convinced isn't even a human being, but some weird Terminator Voldemort hybrid wearing counterfeit human skin. Also, Andrew Jackson was governor here, and he was a populist demagogue who hated brown people so much he forcibly relocated thousands of them. So he was kind of like a proto-Trump, like an Iggy populist, if you will. But I digress. Thing is, Jeb Bush isn't good enough to be good, but he's not bad enough to be bad. He's just Jeb enough to be Jeb. And that's why Jeb Bush should never be president. From Miami, I'm Juan Escalante. Chandler?
Thank you, Juan. In the end, Jeb Bush just can't fire up a Republican electorate that's been conditioned to the reactionary rhetoric of Trump and pals. Kind of makes me feel bad for the guy. Jeb. This has been why Jeb Bush will never be president. He even kind of looks like an Italian mobster, right down to the ravioli-only diet. By the way, that's the only fat joke I'll be making in this whole video. I don't want to oversize my welcome. I mean, overstay. Same bacon. I mean, difference!